Welcome to Season 5 of AIHA's podcast series, The Healthy Workplaces Show, where we explore timely and informative topics about occupational and environmental health and safety. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with AIHA CEO Larry Sloan. Today, we're recapping key highlights from AIHA's December National Town Hall. If you couldn't tune in, this conversation breaks down what you need to know about where AIHA is headed, the priorities shaping the OEHS profession, and what it all means for healthier workplaces moving forward. Larry, thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Let's get started. Let's talk about where AIHA is heading. December's National Town Hall highlighted AIHA's 2025 to 2027 strategic plan. What can you tell us about the future of AIHA?
I think that last year was transformative on many levels, but I think our future is bright, and I'm going to list just a few examples of why I say that. First of all, last year was a true wake-up call to the profession and to the association. We faced unprecedented political challenges with funding cuts to the agencies that support us, the reduction in force notices that went out to over 85% of the NIOSH workers. We had to rally to the cause, and we submitted over 9,000 letters to elected officials when we launched our Restore NIOSH grassroots campaign. There's more of that in the future, and I'm just delighted that the membership has stepped up to exercise really a grassroots effort. We need to be better at telling our story to policymakers, whether it's a Republican or a Democratic administration. I think we've learned a lesson that we need to speak up and speak out and explain what these agencies do for the better functioning of worker health and safety and our communities. Looking ahead to 2026, we're going to be ramping up our state level advocacy, which I think is going to become more critical as the federal government efforts are curtailed or reduced. And then switching gears, I'm really excited about AIHA Connect 2026 in New Orleans. We've got some exciting changes for the expo. We've got a new senior executive symposium that we're hosting on Sunday and Monday that's going to be designed to help connect emerging and AI technologies with OSH programs. I'm also very excited with our LLCs. We're continuing work on our new sensor performance testing accreditation program. We're doing some exploratory work in our proficiency analytic testing program on agricultural, microplastics, and PFAS tests. So there could be some new programs and new revenue opportunities for the association in those spaces. And I'm excited about our new pipeline initiative. How do we reach out to undergraduate college STEM students and get them aware of the fact that occupational health and safety is a very dynamic and financially rewarding profession? And then finally, I'm really excited about our heat stress app. We rolled it out phase 2 last year. We've gotten our first sponsor. Very, very happy to hear that Slate Safety has stepped up. And we're now going to be leveraging our relationships at the state level and figuring out a way that we could work with those states that have heat standards on the books to further promote the app. So that's just a sampling of some things that I'm excited about within the association.
Now, that's very exciting to hear. One of AIHA's goals is to advance OEHS science and practice. Could you break down AIHA's continuous improvement plan for me?
Sure. So first of all, let me explain the Advancing OEHS Science and Practice programs. There are 4. One is, and the first one that came out of the gate is called Defining the Science. And that was really for us as an association in collaboration with ACGIH to create a national research agenda. The next one is the state of the art versus practice. And over the last several years, we've launched a series of surveys to help us better understand, with all of the great knowledge that we published over the years, are practitioners utilizing that knowledge in the field in their daily practice? And if not, how do we close the gap? The third one is called Principles of Good Practice, which is basically a compendium of recommended good and enhanced practices that practitioners can apply in the field, again, based on guidance that we published over the last many years. And then the last one is called Improving Exposure Judgment, or IEJ. And that's about using IH statistics to help you analyze data sets. So the continuous improvement plan is basically built upon the IEJ and the PGP coupled with the state-of-the-art versus practice. What we're going to be doing is creating a roadmap for the practitioner, and each roadmap will be focused on a different rubric. So when you think about the principles of good practice, if we go back a couple of years, the first rubric that we featured in the PGP was on airborne chemicals. And then the next rubric was on hearing loss conservation. So think of a continuous improvement plan as basically a roadmap for the practitioner to understand how to get from where they're practicing the profession today to where they could be practicing aligned with enhanced practices based on our guidance.
Now, there were a lot of new and updated resources mentioned during the National Town Hall. What excites you the most about the education and practical tools AIHA is putting out right now?
Well, first off, I'm very excited about the quality of the abstracts that were accepted for AIHA Connect 2026. As always, it was a very highly competitive process. I'm very excited about the fact that we're adding virtual only PDCs on the front end of the conference experience. I mentioned earlier, we've got some exciting new attractions that you'll see in New Orleans. Switching to EHS generalist materials, we're doing more to promote the association to safety practitioners and EHS generalists. And so we've created a portal on the website that lists those materials that are catered to those audiences. We don't expect those folks to join AIHA, but we want to make sure that we are an established, recognized source of education for, again, safety and EHS generalists that need to get up to speed on the IH side of the equation. And then finally, I'm very excited about the ongoing efforts to promote our OEL program. We have the Occupational Exposure Limit program, which is housed under our Guideline Foundation. And that's basically going to be developing the equivalent of TLVs for AIHA. And that's a program that just came back to AIHA about a year ago. And that's going to further enhance the caliber and the suite of services that are maintained under the Guideline Foundation, in addition to things like the ERPG, which is the Emergency Response Planning Guideline Program, and some of the other initiatives there.
Okay, so let's talk about the American Industrial Hygiene Foundation for a moment. In 2025, AIHF awarded $199,950 in scholarships to 53 students. What an achievement. What can you tell me about the new capital fundraising campaign for this year?
Yeah, this is a really exciting effort, and we're just getting started. It was approved by the Foundation's Board of Trustees late last year, and the idea here will be to basically fund a research project where we're going to explore and select a fundraising consultant who is an expert in helping associations like AIJ develop capital fundraising campaigns. This is completely new territory for us. I think that this is something that every organization should be investing in if they have an education foundation like we do. Again, this is a very challenging time for 501c3s, and we need to invest and continue to sustain the pipeline of new talent. Now, personally, I've always given to the foundation, and I decided that at the end of last year, I was going to step it up, and I committed to funding what's called a new endowed scholarship under my name starting this year. And the purpose of the endowed scholarship is going to be to continue to fund students to help them attend conference each and every year. So that's my way of just paying it forward and helping the next generation of talent get exposed to AIHA Connect and building their professional networks. So very exciting times for the foundation.
Very exciting. Now, every day, AIHA volunteers do great and wonderful things to advance the profession and change the world. How is AIHA creating more volunteer opportunities for OEHS professionals? And what would you tell someone who's interested in volunteering for the first time?
Well, first of all, don't be shy. Step up and join. We have over 50 technical committees and working groups and advisory groups and things of that nature. There's something really for everybody. And it's a great opportunity to show your leadership, show your subject matter expertise, and then also, of course, learn from others. And if you're early in the career or you're a student, you don't automatically have to join and become an officer, but over time, it's a great way to exercise leadership and to build confidence. And so we always suggest that you start and join one or two groups. And then over time, if you like those groups, then you start looking at an officer position to exercise that leadership aspect of your professional development. We're very pleased that, we continue to review the caliber of work across all of our volunteer groups. We have sunset some of our committees over the years. Some of the committees have been combined together, and that's good because less committees means there's less need for volunteer group officers. We want to make sure that people who are contributing in any of these committees are doing so with purpose. We don't want to just have a group for the sake of having a group. And sometimes there's an alignment of two different committees, and it makes more sense to bring them together. In addition, we've developed a whole array of what I'll call advisory groups, which are a little more strategic in nature. And we have, for example, the Indoor Air Quality Advisory Group, which is a liaison between AIHA and ASHRAE. We have the TSCA Advisory Group that works very closely with EPA. And then we have the Human Capital Advisory Group. So these are higher level groups that often provide strategic direction to the AIHA board. So regardless of where you plug in, whether it's an advisory group or one of our many technical committees or a special interest group, there's lots of opportunities to exercise a thought leadership role and help contribute to the greater good of the association.
Struggling with the science behind odor detection, threshold values, and their practical application? AIHA University is hosting odor thresholds in practice, tools, science, and case studies for IH and OEHS professionals. Earn 3.5 contact hours at this live virtual PDC on February 25th.
One thing that really stood out to me was how much emphasis AIHA puts on impact and awareness for last year. What apps and publications are you most proud of?
Well, last year, as I mentioned earlier, we released version 2 of the heat stress app. And so now that particular product is designed for all kinds of workers, both outdoors and indoors. And so we're going to be continuing to amplify that app. I'm very proud of the IH Calculator app that was launched last year. That was produced by the former Computer Applications Committee. And that's really a tool to help you in the field to navigate those complex formulas that you had to master when you sat for the CIH exam. I'm very pleased by the updated wildfire technical guide that came out last spring. There's a lot of concern about how remediation is occurring across the country in areas like Los Angeles and places within Colorado that are typically, victimized by wildfires, urban wildfires. So the wildfire technical guide is an excellent resource, and we'll be continuing to update and refine that guide as we receive additional intelligence. And then finally, I'm excited about the release of updated versions of the IH Core Competencies document and the IH Pro Pathways document. Both of these documents are very beneficial for those that are early in their career, and it helps one guide their professional pathway as they go from student to early career to full career position. So that's just a small sampling of some of the publications and products that we released over the last year that I'm very proud of.
And I'm very excited to see what comes out in 2026, of course.
Yep.
Let's switch gears to AIHA's advocacy work. In the fall of 2024, AIHA surveyed its members to develop a list of the top 10 public policy priorities. What are the 2025 to 2026 public policy priorities, and how is AIHA implementing change?
Great question. So the top 5 public policy priorities are in this order. Number 1 is thermal stress. Number 2 is noise, hearing loss conservation. Number 3 is pipeline development. Number 4 is natural disasters. And number 5 is TSCA reform. And so what we've done in collaboration with our government relations consultant called What Works Institute is we've created what I'll call policy documents that help better frame the policy topic and also to help frame what AIHA's position is. Whether we're talking to federal or state level policymakers, we want to make sure that we have a clear set of talking points. Each of these documents also includes template letters that can be used if you're reaching out to your elected officials. Now, in 2026, while we do expect there to be some activity at the federal level, I think that a lot of the activity is going to be held at the state level. And so we're going to be identifying those key progressive states around the country where we think there's going to be the most activity. So for topics like thermal stress, noise, and natural disasters, we can see legislation and regulations being developed at the state level, and that's where we're going to plug in utilizing these materials that are contained in these policy documents. Now, TSCA reform, of course, is a federal initiative, and we're going to continue to work very closely with our friends over at the EPA. So a lot of exciting things that are happening on the public policy front. The other thing that I'll mention in closing is that we still have the 2 grassroots advocacy campaigns. One is the Restore NIOSH campaign, and the other one is what I'll call the OEHS ecosystem. So that's all of the, not just NIOSH and OSHA, but also Chemical Safety Board, the Occupational Health and Safety Review Commission, NACOSH, which exists within OSHA. We want to make sure that these agencies and organizations are all fully functional. So we have to continue to educate our policymakers so that they understand the important role that each of these organizations plays to better protect worker health and safety. So a very exciting year ahead.
Final question. If you could leave our audience with one message about the role of OHS professionals in today's changing world, what would it be?
In a world that's changing faster than standards and regulations can keep up with, I think that our members, OEHS professionals, are an early warning system. We are the ones who see the risk before it becomes harm. And we are the ones that translate, complex science into practical decisions that protect people. So our role today, it's not just about compliance. That's the bare minimum. It's about leadership. It's about taking the company, the organization that you consult for to the next level. We do our job well. Most people won't even know our names, but they're going to go home safe, healthy, and able to live full lives. And that's the true impact that our profession makes on society. We are the unsung heroes, and we should be very proud of the role that we play.
Well said. Larry, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me once again.
That wraps up today's episode of the Healthier Workplaces Show. To learn more, visit the AIHA website and follow us on social media. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, remember that healthier workplaces mean a healthier world. Until next time.